in with a bang. American Independence Day. Nashville style. I'm on a visit back home from Mexico where I report for Al Jazeera. I grew up nearby in a small town. And every time I come back, I can't help notice how things have changed, how the face of America has changed, how the faces themselves have changed. My grandmother's great-grandfather immigrated here in the 1860s from a small Jewish village in Germany. It took generations for my family to feel part of America. Millions of undocumented immigrants are struggling to be accepted here now. I always wanted to know more about my ancestors, how they lived, how they struggled, and what hardships they endured. By meeting some of today's immigrants, I hope to get new insight into my own family's experience.
Welcome to America.
Here at this 4th of July festival, you can easily find people open to immigration.
Well, America can embrace diversity and embrace other cultures and still retain our heritage.
But Nashville, a southern city, still has many who want to put the brakes on immigration.
Something needs to be done, but we can't just say, hey, send all your people from your 31 provinces up to America and we're going to feed and clothe them.
I also want to see how today's immigrants are dealing with the broken U.S. immigration system, a system that has left the future uncertain for millions. While immigration reform has been on Washington's political agenda for decades, the issue is being kicked around like a political piñata until November 20th. That's when President Obama signed an executive order that brings relief for some of the more than 11 million undocumented people living in the U.S.
What I'm describing is accountability, a common sense middle ground approach. If you meet the criteria, you can come out of the shadows and get right with the law.
As nearly 5 million undocumented immigrants start to take advantage of their newfound rights, the bickering continues.
With this action, the president has chosen to deliberately sabotage any chance of enacting bipartisan reforms that he claims to seek. And as I told the president yesterday, he's damaging the presidency itself.
And to those members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better, or question the wisdom of me acting where Congress has failed, I have one answer. Pass a bill.
Ahí va, cuidado. Ahí.
My name is Veronica Zabaleta, and I'm a housekeeper.
Estamos haciendo y estamos filmando ya, sí, ya vio, ¿no? No, la es que tenemos un canal internacional. Yo soy de...
Veronica and her family invited me over to their July 4th cookout. Their celebration of this all-American holiday shows how much they're trying to fit in.
Nosotros lo celebramos por los niños, porque los niños les aprenden de eso en la escuela. Sí. Y entonces por eso nosotros empezamos a cocinar algo no muy tradicional, pero hacemos algo para ellos. Pero yo pienso es un día muy importante por la independencia de Estados Unidos.
12 years ago, Veronica escaped a violent, abusive husband. She and her 3 sons fled Mexico City to make the dangerous journey north across the border. She was separated from her kids, Carlos, who was 9, Eduardo, 18 months, and Victor, only 4 months old at the time. The children made it over, but luck was not on Veronica's side. A border guard caught her hiding in the trunk of a car.
It was my first time when I feel very discriminate, because when he see us in there, he sorry. He just start to take the guys out of the trunk. Then when he see through my eye, he told me, bienvenida a los Estados Unidos. It was a nightmare because I know my dream ended in this point and I don't know where my kids was.
I've reported along the border for years and met many like Veronica who will do anything to get into the U.S. They're often fleeing poverty and raging violence. Long distances don't stop them. Some ride the Beast, a dangerous train the whole length of Mexico. Many pay thousands of dollars to smugglers to cross the border. Walls don't keep them out. Some even crawl through tunnels and sewers, all with the hope of a better life for them and their children. And when they're caught, many just try again until they finally make it. On her second try, Veronica managed to simply walk across the border, and after 3 days was reunited with her children. She decided to settle in Nashville, the only town where she had a family friend. Her new life started out in terrible living conditions. She had to cram her family into a filthy apartment with 8 men.
I have no place to go. Even if I refuse the offer, I will be end up on the middle of the street. And I talked to my 9-year-old and I'm like, you ready to be a man? And he's like, yes, I'm ready. Let's do it. Yes, this is our home. And this big mess is because we're redoing the floor over there and all this stuff needs to find a place over here while the floor gets done. This is my kitchen, and it's my dream kitchen because I used to live in an apartment. It was a duplex with a maybe 3x6 kitchen, and now it feels like a palace because this is my first house that I bought ever in my life. I own a house.
She's come a long way. Veronica and her family, in many ways, live a typical middle-class life. They're nestled in a nice suburban neighborhood. On the weekend, there's chores to do. But there's something constantly hanging over their heads that most in the suburbs don't have to worry about: deportation.
I have to teach my kids. It's hard to sit in the table at the dinner, and when you finish to eat, you have to tell the kids, remember, tomorrow I'm going to drop you to the school, but probably I will not pick you up. Probably I will be in detention center. But don't worry. How you say, after you say I will be in detention center, then you say, no worry. How that sounds? And my kids and 11 million families live in the same situation.
Which is fear.
Yes, we're in the fear.
They've been stopped by the police before. Like, that's something that's always on my head.
That must be pretty stressful.
At times it is.
Yeah.
Incredibly, Veronica is recognized by one U.S. government agency, the IRS, the taxman. Though she can be thrown out of the country at any time, like millions of Americans, she pays income tax and even has a mortgage. You don't have all your documents that make you legal here, so how were you able to buy this house?
I'm able to get this house because I have my tax ID, which is a federal document the IRS provide me in order for me to pay my taxes. They don't allow me to have a social security number. They don't give me my permanent resident card, but they get my taxes. I've been paying my taxes for 10 or 11 years already.
Even everyday problems take on a greater significance because of their undocumented status. They don't qualify for Obamacare. No one in this family actually has health insurance. So what do you have here?
Well, this is the medical bills for Eduardo. He got an episode by February. He passed out in school, and the school called the ambulance, and he ended up in ER, and that one cost me a lot of money.
How much do you owe in total for that?
$11,000.
The threat of being caught by ICE, the immigration police, plays into every decision, into every little simple thing, like driving. The family lives in constant fear that they will be caught.
You were telling me that sometimes on the weekend you like to stay home. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's better to stay home on the weekend?
The weekends is a high risk to go outside, and police are everywhere. And here in Tennessee, they have some checkpoints, and they say it's just for drunk drivers or for the seat belt, but it's not. Every time they do that, they got so many people with no driver license. And that one will end up in a ticket, and they send us to a court. And while I was in a court, ICE police can check my record and find out that I'm undocumented, and I will finish in the deportation procedures. That's why it's better not to put myself in risk.
I'm on my way to my hometown, Brownsville. It's been 10 years since I've been back. Already on the drive down from Nashville, I notice one thing that isn't quite like it used to be.
The sounds of Tennessee have changed too since when I was a kid. Anyone turning the radio dial can hear country, R&B, blues, and of course an increasing amount of Latin music. So people who come to the state don't only see the changes, they hear them too.
In many ways, Brownsville looks the same as it did when I was a kid. A typical small town. It was a good place to live. We knew everyone, and everyone knew my family, long rooted in this southern community. The synagogue always stood out there. It reminded us Brownsville was a little different, and we were too.
I'm Carolyn Key Raney. I'm a fifth-generation American from Tennessee. The first ancestor who came over here came from Eppelstein, which is no longer on the map, and his name was Isaac Levi, L-E-V-I, and he was my great-great-grandfather. He came over with 6 of his 9 children, and he came to Brownsville and stayed here. And he wasn't here long. He died about 2 years after he arrived. And he was a very religious man and a religious scholar. So, Adam, this is the high school where not only my mother graduated, but
My mom's always tried to hammer home all the details about our family's struggle over the years to be accepted.
Here we go.
We can see signs of that here. This is where my grandmother went to high school.
So come on, I want to show you, I think my mom's picture's down this way. I think I've seen it here before, if my recollection is correct, and I love looking at all this. This family history is really exciting.
So I think she graduated high school in 1931.
1931, and there she is, right there. That's your mama when she was younger. I'm sure you remember her.
2 generations later, for all intents and purposes, she's fully integrated into the social life of the town.
Absolutely.
Right?
She was the belle of the ball. Her family was highly respected, in part because they were very successful financially, but also in part because they were very outgoing. They were known to be religious, which is very big in southern towns.
The path to assimilation began in earnest when Isaac's grandson took over the family business, a general store. These pictures from that store always stood out to me as a child. That's my grandmother on the left, a little girl of about 10 or 12 years old. And there is my great-grandfather, clearly on top of the social pyramid in the segregated South.
And Ike did phenomenally well. It was the largest store of its type in Brownsville. So not only did it service the city residents, it serviced the county as well. And it grew to be a very large enterprise for its day and time. And he sold everything imaginable under the sun.
Even with my great-grandfather's success, my mother, as a young fifth-generation American, was taught similar lessons that today's immigrant parents teach their children.
If you were Jewish, you were different, so tread lightly. And I remember my mother having a conversation with me about those very parameters that I needed to observe so that no harm would come to me physically or emotionally. So I knew from the time I was old enough that I was Jewish and somewhat set apart from the people that I was surrounded by. It was
my family, just as generations of other Americans, assimilated over time.
And the further we got away from Isaac Levi, who was Orthodox, kept kosher, honored the Sabbath, did all the traditional Orthodox Jewish things, the more liberal the family became and the whole community, and the more Southern we became. So, yes, I see myself as a Jewish woman, but I'm also aware that I'm a Southern woman, that those are my roots. We're walking in the cotton fields now, in between the rows of cotton.
So I remember coming out here a lot when we were kids because we lived up here with Mamaw for a while.
My great-grandfather bought up as much land as he could. That was the American dream. It's been winnowed down now by family feuds and lawsuits, but it's still important to my mother, who feels rooted here.
I just think about my family. I'm standing on my family's land, and what a journey it was for them to get here, to establish themselves, to be able to buy this kind, have this kind of investment, and to pass it on to me, and me to you, and your brother and sister. So it's just all about family when I'm out here.
Preserving the family. That sounds a lot like what Veronica told me, and what I hear from many immigrants. Driving back into town, I meet with my mother's longtime friend, Franklin Smith, who's the county mayor.
Hey, Franklin.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yes, it's been a long time.
Can we have a chat?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Anytime. Yeah. Anytime.
I greet Franklin in the shadow of a Civil War memorial. In the South, they take pride in their history. Franklin has seen a lot of changes. Brownsville has long been defined by relations between black and white. But like the rest of America, it's become more complex.
There's a handful of people who want to fight back. You know, the Tea Party folks. Hell, they don't want to see us do anything for the immigrants now. They don't want to do immigration, but we got to do it. People on the ground not worried about it. We're not. I mean, we're dealing with it. Well, I think Washington is completely disconnected from real America. And you know, I used to love to go to Washington, but now I feel like I'm a foreigner when I'm in Washington because we got some folks up there that don't need to be running anything, much less a country.
That lack of political will hasn't stopped Brownsville and other communities across the country from taking on the issue on their own.
It happens in middle America, where you'd least expect it. And I think for the most part, even the people who've come in, the immigrants, like it better in the small towns. They mix better. I mean, they don't hide here. You know, this is a hard town for folks to break in, I guess. But the Hispanics have mixed in well. I mean, they take leadership positions in the community, and the community has accepted them well. And they want to be a part of the community, so I think it's worked out really well.
For some in Brownsville, the change has been a godsend.
Only by our Lord Jesus Christ, bound to him, can we...
Attendance has been up at Sunday Mass at St. John's Catholic Church. Father Kirk tries to make his parish's newest members feel at home. And the parishioners themselves have brought a little bit of home with them. Among them, the Cardenas family, who moved to Brownsville in the early 1990s. Marta Cardenas and her husband were one of the first Mexican families in town. It wasn't easy being a pioneer. She always felt under suspicion.
I stayed 5 years inside the house, afraid to go out, because I didn't speak any English. So it was very hard, because I was afraid the way they look at me, and we went to the store and they always following us, you know, like we're gonna steal something.
Marta finally ventured out more and more.
15 years ago, I was still, you know, feeling lonely, and I didn't have my friends, because it took a long time to accept us. It took a very long time, huh? To accept us people in Brownsville. They're kind of close.
She says her successful struggle to be accepted is part of America's larger immigration history.
Now I feel like I'm proud of that. I feel like I'm part of these changes, you know, Brownsville being faced in these 30 years. Because it's very different than when we got here. Now it's very different. So I know I am from Mexico, but I call now this is my home.
While her dream has come true, millions of others are still fighting to call this home. Nashville, Music Row. People come day and night to listen to country music. On stage, young musicians looking to make it. Behind the scenes, an increasing number of immigrants are working to keep the crowds happy.
I am Arturo Zabaleta. I am a cook, and I'm a single father.
Veronica's brother Arturo followed her from Mexico to Nashville. He'd love to call it home. But 4 years ago, he was arrested on an alleged domestic violence charge.
Bye. I love you. I love you more.
The case was dropped, but he was now on the immigration radar. Although he's undocumented, he wasn't kicked out yet. He's fighting deportation.
I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a bad people. I mean, I stay in my job for almost 4 years, the same job. I never got a DUI. I never been in robbery things. I never been in all that stuff. I mean, I don't even go into the dance club. I mean, I just living for my baby. It's parks and bicycles, and that's my life.
His biggest fear, losing his fight and having to leave his 5-year-old U.S.-born daughter, Amanda, behind.
No me lo puedo imaginar. Subirme a un camión y ver cómo Nashville se está alejando de mí. Significaría ver por el espejo retrovisor de mi camioneta a mi hija todos los días cuando me dice adiós y me voy a trabajar. Pero saber que ya no voy a regresar. Esa es la peor pesadilla que puedo tener, imaginarme ese momento. Cuando esté tomando ese camión y cuando mi hija esté fuera del camión diciéndome adiós. Sin saber qué va a pasar con ella, sin saber qué va a pasar conmigo.
I'm Andrew Free. I'm an immigration and civil rights attorney.
Andrew has taken on Arturo's case. He often represents undocumented parents and realizes how much they have at stake. He's especially concerned for Arturo's daughter, Amanda.
She's going to grow up with no father. She's going to grow up only knowing her father through visits to Mexico. Or is she going to grow up with a caring, loving parent who has basically no criminal history other than driving offenses, here continuing to contribute to her upbringing and education?
He sees immigration policies as running counter to American values and principles.
It starts with a civil violation, it escalates to a criminal violation, and then eventually you're having people serving time when their main crime is wanting to return to their families. I think that's what Jeb Bush said, ironically, is this is an act of love. And so I think what we're seeing is not that people have absolutely no respect for the law or for national sovereignty or anything like that, but particularly in cases of people who've lived here for a long time and who are parents of U.S. citizen children, they're doing what any parent would do. They're putting their family first, and they're making sure that their children have a better opportunity than they had.
I'm sure my great-great-grandfather had much to worry about in his new country, but having his family split up through deportation was not even a possibility. Some of Nashville's newest arrivals have come here legally as refugees. These Somali kids are waiting for iftar, the breaking of the fast held during the holy month of Ramadan. Once a week, the community gathers around at the Al Farouk Mosque to share in prayer and food.
My name is Mohammed Shukri Hassan, and I'm a community advocate.
Muhammad came to the U.S. when he was 15. His family had lived in a Kenyan refugee camp for 10 years after fleeing Somalia's civil war.
As a little boy, you getting up in the morning, you don't have a plan. All you look forward is eating whatever you can and go enjoying your little buddy's play soccer down the street. But you get up and, you know, there's nothing to eat and drink, and you are hungry.
I'm struck by what brought me and Muhammad together, a Jewish descendant from 19th century immigrants and a young Somali Muslim who fled war. Perhaps it was the promise of America. But he says new Americans shouldn't be expected to try and blend in immediately.
One biggest challenge here in Tennessee is that folks will look at this and they'll say, okay, they're isolating themselves. They're not mixing with us. And that's not true. This is just a natural communal thing, and every mosque, every church does this on typical Sunday. So, but there's some people who are anti-immigrant, they make this the point of their immigrant argument, saying that, okay, see this point, they're not assimilating or integrating. I think the first step to integration is this, where community first have to really feel comfortable, and then the next step.
Mohammed realizes that he and his community need to learn from the lessons of the past and start taking a new approach to the whole issue of integration.
Prejudice and racism has been part of the American. So usually what I tell my community members is that we have to be resilient and at the same time understand the context of it. The understanding the context, and let's not only play victim, but let's be proactive. Let's make more friends for our community and integrate better that way. Because if we just sit here and complain about racism, it's not going to go away that way.
He survived war and near starvation, and he's making the most of his opportunity. He owns a coffee shop where people often gather to watch football matches. And he's on course for a master's degree.
That self-censorship sometimes happens on the whole community level. So is that the same as the thing that we're talking about here?
But his main job is helping fellow immigrants cut through government red tape, like he did for a group of Somali taxi drivers who started their own company.
And when a community is very new, they don't know how the government work and all that. So one thing I did was that lobbied the city to treat them fairly, and all they want to participate in the free market economy, which means forming their own company.
It's clear that Mohammed and his fellow Somalis struggle to find acceptance, but they have something that Veronica dreams about, a legal right to be here. Where you come from matters for Washington. Civil wars produce refugees. Poor, violent countries produce illegal immigrants. Some didn't have the choice and now are stuck. I'm talking about the thousands of children brought here illegally by their parents. For years, Dreamers, as they're known, protested for more rights.
What do we want? Immigration reform! When? Now!
Finally, in 2012, President Obama signed an order temporarily deferring the deportation of hundreds of thousands of undocumented youth. Veronica's son is one of the lucky ones granted that deferment. Although they've gained legal status, for now, it's not permanent.
Up until a couple years ago, people started coming forward and started bringing light to the issue that, hey, we're here, we're undocumented, and we're not scared anymore. Because we want this to change. Because if we keep hiding it, it's never going to change. Because if we keep hiding it, that's telling you guys that we're okay with this and that we're okay with being in this situation. And guess what? We're not.
Carlos and others meet up every week to discuss ways to speed up the reform movement. Many of these youth were brought over so young that they feel more American than anything else. But they haven't had the same rights as those born here.
My name is Cesar Bautista, and I'm a community organizer.
Cesar's parents smuggled him over the border when he was 8 years old. He always dreamed of working in healthcare and trained to be a medical assistant.
I was so excited, you know, all these different places wanted me to work for them.
He was undocumented at the time. No one could hire him.
And I was crying the whole ride back home. I was crying and I told Mom it's just not fair that I'm here try my best and that I cannot get a job on what I study.
Cesar is now allowed to work, but his wife is still undocumented. She wasn't eligible for the deferment, which means she's here illegally. The fear of being caught and deported is ever present.
I always keep an eye on her, just like when she drives, making sure that everything in her car works, where she won't have to get pulled over. Call her or text her, hey, are you home, or are you okay, or where are you?
Cesar's frustration fuels his activism.
I don't think it will be here. I think it will be over there. So let's go over here.
Although as a non-citizen, he can't vote, he goes door to door to register as many people as he can to get them to vote for immigrant rights.
So these are the locations that you can go and do early voting if you want. Yeah. And it's preferably to do early voting because you don't have to go through a line. You can go any of these locations.
I'm Carl Dean. I'm the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville has one of the fastest growing foreign-born populations in the U.S. Big city mayors like Carl Dean have been stepping into the vacuum created by Washington to reach out more to immigrants.
That means whether you were born and raised in our city or if you came from another country and chose Nashville as your home, it doesn't matter and it shouldn't matter. You have the same opportunity as everyone else to create a good life here.
Progressive talk from a mayor, but Nashville has had to struggle to reach this point. In 2009, an effort to make English the only official language was put to a citywide vote. That proposal failed. There's more work to do, though, according to the mayor.
Clearly, you have to do outreach. I don't think that a city or a locality can just be passive and think that everybody's going to fit together or be included correctly or understand what necessarily the way the government operates unless you reach out and talk to people.
The mayor has set up a monthly meeting for different groups to show they have his ear and perhaps to garner their support.
You know, we've been working really hard to get an accurate list of immigrant voters in Davidson County. And we think that we've got the capacity and we've got the plan where we can do a lot of turnout in this year's elections and kind of show Davidson County that the immigrant vote is real and that our population has grown in such a way where immigrant voters make a difference.
Candidates realize now that immigrant votes matter. Many running for state office appeared at a community center that caters to immigrants and refugees. They made their pitch to foreign-born voters.
If we're not standing up for people who are working hard and earning very little, we're in big trouble as a state and as a society.
And I'll consider myself a failure if I don't bring a Republican to break fast at Ramadan, if I don't bring someone to have a margarita at the Thirsty Turtle, to see a citizenship class at Conexión, or to watch a graduation ceremony at NICE.
Veronica can't cast a vote, but she and other immigrant women meet regularly to plan protests and actions that will draw attention to their cause. Despite being undocumented, they take risks. They even have gone to Congress to lobby for immigration reform. On one trip to Washington, Veronica found herself thrust into the national spotlight by questioning the nation's third most powerful politician, Speaker of the House, John Boehner.
I just want to ask you why you want to break the dream of the dreamers, of the students. Just please, can you please express your opinion about that? Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I really want to know why you have to break the dreamers.
There's staff that you can call, contact to make an appointment. There's staff that you can talk to.
Believe
This is not the time or place. This is not the time or place. Okay?
If you are a father, he's a father, I'm a mom, and I want to know to make sure. Yes, you're not going to answer my question.
Why are you refusing to talk to us, sir? We are always making an appointment. Trying to make an appointment.
All the things possible.
Veronica's courage and determination is what strikes me most from this video. She stood up to a man who, with a phone call, could have ripped her from her family.
If they're going to remove the deferred action, they already have the information in the file. Easily, they can come and pick up my son. And as a mother, I've been fighting for my son all these years. And I was angry, like you'd never imagine how angry I was.
A rite of passage in my hometown. It certainly was for me, like it is for kids across America. I wonder if Veronica's grandkids will get a chance to play on a field like this one. Spending time back home, I realize how immigrants today face different challenges than my family did. They're targeted for deportation, they can't vote. A lot of basic freedoms people in Brownsville and across America take for granted are still out of reach for them. My mom and I go to the family synagogue, one of the oldest in Tennessee. We've come to register the birth of my son and the sudden death of my 7-year-old nephew.
I'll go first. I never thought I would write this in my entire life.
It's all right. Nico's birthday here, too.
No, this will be a happy one.
A few streets over from the synagogue is the town's Jewish cemetery. My mom always brings me here when I'm in Brownsville. She calls it visiting the family.
Do you remember we'd come out here and have picnics when you were a child? Yeah, and you all would play on all the footstones and headstones. And you'd get up on them, especially you on top of the tombstones and jump off of them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that depressed when I'm out here because we came here all the time.
I remember coming here with my mother and grandmother and hearing stories about my grandfather. Today, though, I've come searching for answers about someone I know very little about.
He is my great-great-grandfather. This is my great-grandfather. And we left earlier my grandfather's grave.
You know, I've come out to this cemetery for decades with my mother, but coming out here now is pretty powerful because to see this grave and finally truly understand the story of Isaac reminds me that I can directly trace my family's line back to him, a man who immigrated, more than 150 years ago to the U.S. And it just struck me really for the first time after years of hearing these stories, this connection between where I am today in my present life and my family's past.
I came from immigrants. I just happened to be further down the line than most people. So all this fuss and to-do over immigration today is ludicrous. It's like, we're closed. Don't come. Well, that's not what it says on the Statue of Liberty. And that's not what I was raised to believe as an American.
Just as Isaac crossed the Atlantic to find a better life for his children, Veronica is determined to give her family a head start. She makes sure her teenage son, Eduardo, completes an internship at an immigrant rights group.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to help you to get some kind of scholarship?
If I get enough hours, probably.
Yeah.
And if...
Of course you're going to get enough hours. Like you say, you come in 2 hours every day.
Happy birthday to you.
Times like these, Veronica's son's birthday party, all smiles and laughter. For Veronica, momentary relief from the constant worry of getting caught and losing all that she has fought so hard for.
Come on, get ready. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I'm here in this community. I'm a part of Nashville. I'm a Tennessean. I'm contributing to this country every single day when I do my shoppings, when I pay my taxes. At the end of the year, I file my taxes. And it's thousands, millions of people in the same situation. And if we're doing the same thing the citizens do, why we can't stay? Why we cannot? If I believe American citizens have the right to stay here, why we not? They are humans, we are too.
Someone who works in the police or ICE would say, well, you didn't get permission first.
Yes, they can ask that. And that's my only sense. If I'm guilty because of that, yes, I am. If I'm guilty because I'm trying to save my life, yes, I am. If I'm guilty, my sense is to want a better future for my kids. That's my sense. As a mother, I think it's my responsibility to fight for my kids' future. I can't take it no more.